greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless. A sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be.
What's everybody doing? This is Clifton Raheem Bradley of the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago. And I am just so fascinated by this technology. And you know what? I get the opportunity to disseminate information to people, but I have a guest that is coming on at 9:31 Central Time. And his name is Mr. Albert. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the New World Order system. And I don't know how this sounds because you know what, I'm in a different location than I usually am. But I had to get away. Sometimes you have to change. You have to change your surroundings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send another link to my guest, and hopefully he will come in. But he was a journalist. And he has had a lot of information. He had a lot of information about the New World Order and the Bilderbergers and the Trilateral Commission that he wanted to share with the audience. You know, and he reached out to me, and I am glad that he chose to, that he saw the information. He said, I would like to come on the show. To sending something to him right now. And you know what, when you're learning this about this technology, it's something else. Going to show up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an attempt to probably. Oh, that look like that's him. Okay, how you doing, brother? How you doing? How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Oh, brother, you know what?
I'm okay. I don't know what happened.
You know what, Mr. Albert? Because of the content and the subject matter that we're going to talk about, there is a such thing as Homeland Security, and you know what? They have a tendency to block things that can enrich the people. Like you have the information to enrich the people and to awaken the people. They have a tendency to block. They talk about the Chinese and the cyber attacks. They making cyber attacks their own self. And sometimes we'll talk about the Patriots Act. But I want to ask you, first of all, thank you for accepting the invitation to come on the Underground Railroad television show in Chicago. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Okay. And you know what? Before we get started, tell the people, please, tell the people your background. Tell them about yourself, because this is not about me. This is about the content that you have and the knowledge that you have that I'm privileged enough to where you're going to share with my little audience.
Okay. Well, I gather I was introduced beforehand. I don't know, because of technical difficulties, I just joined the program later, as everyone is well aware. For those of you, so I assume I was introduced. If not, I will introduce myself. Yes. My name is Albert Lanier. I was a print journalist and freelance writer. Basically, I was a freelance writer and a freelance journalist for 22 years.
Wow. Wow.
I wrote for a variety of publications
Mm-hmm.
in Hawaii, California, and in Washington State during that 22-year career.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't give you a laundry list, but some of these publications included in Hawaii, Honolulu Weekly, Pacific Business News, on a lighter side, Edible Hawaiian Islands,
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
On the mainland, in Seattle, I wrote for Puget Sound Business Journal,
Mm-hmm.
among other publications. And in California, technically, I wrote for, not so much while I was living there, but I did write for Asian Week,
Mm-hmm.
which
What
was one
gave you this?
publication.
What, if you don't mind
I
me
wrote for a number
asking,
of
what,
others.
you don't
So
mind
those
me
are just
asking,
some of the publications I've written.
mhm, what gave you the burning passion to even say that, you know what, I want to write to disseminate information, because writers are courageous, because you know what, because of the canons of journalism, y'all cannot reveal certain sources. Okay, so what gave you the energy and the motivation to do
The energy and motivation.
that?
The motivation was money, because when I first started freelancing, I was out of work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was actually a radio uh,
Mm-hmm.
board. I was working as a board. I was at an oldies rock, Stones, Doors, you name it. And so I did that for a brief time. I had actually done radio news in college.
What radio? What radio
Not
station?
at the college that I attended. The
Mm-hmm.
college I went to was the University of Hawaii, West Oahu, where I got my Bachelor of Arts degree.
Beautiful.
Sorry?
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Okay. Um, so, like I said, I had done news in college. I had been at another station in the University of Hawaii system of colleges. I went to the University of Hawaii, West Oahu, got my bachelor's degree there. I used to do news in my junior year at the University of Hawaii at Manoa's radio station, KTUH,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that for about my junior year, for about a
That's a beautiful thing. That's a
couple
beautiful
terms,
thing. I
or
want to
would
ask
be
you
a whole
something.
term. I can't
I
remember.
would like to ask you something about being a writer. There's some writers, rather than reveal their
Mm-hmm.
sources, they would rather go to jail. You see a lot of yellow journalism now. People writing things just to sensationalize them. Should it be about sensationalism? Stories that really just need to impact the people's lives.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting. Sorry. Well, it's interesting that you note sort of yellow journalism,
Mm-hmm.
which is one form of journalism, definitely.
Yes.
And people going to jail over their sources. Well, some of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it depends on the story, and it depends on, you know, the importance of the story. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's one aspect that you have to look at.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are kind of two separate subjects: yellow journalism, and then reporters kind of going to jail over not revealing sources.
Yeah.
Those are kind of two separate areas, I would say.
Do you think it's
Um,
you know what? Do you think it's legit?
I don't want to sound like a. Go ahead, sorry.
Do you think it's legitimate for a reporter not to rather than reveal a source, go to jail? Do you think that's legitimate? Do you think that's
Interesting question.
Mhm.
Well, generally, you're not supposed to give sources away when you're a reporter. when you're a journalist of any sort. I was a freelance journalist, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, you're not supposed to. I think the principle is that you'd rather keep a source secret, depending on the source. If it's not someone who's on the record, if it's an anonymous source, that would be where I think you would run into the aspect of going to jail over a source, because then people would want to find out who is this source that you talk to. Because it would be unnamed or anonymous or not on the record, right?
Yes.
Not on the record in the sense that there's no attribution for that.
Okay, and you know,
so that's important. I would say from what I go ahead.
Go ahead.
From what I understood of the business and what I knew of the business, yeah, it's something that you don't want to happen, right? You don't want to give up sources because that's a matter of trust.
Yes.
I've only used anonymous sources like a couple of times, and they weren't for major stories.
Okay.
It's not like major scandal, major breakthrough, something like that. It wasn't like an earth-shattering story. It was a rather pedestrian story, but these were people in, I think, state government and maybe county government. They did not want their name used because they were giving me information.
Okay.
And they preferred not to be named. And I acceded to that. Sometimes you have to use anonymous sources. Sometimes you do. But if your story is nothing but sources that have no direct attribution in terms of names and are unnamed sources, if you have a story with a bunch of that, then I think people are right to be suspicious. Right? And that's never happened to me, but I have used unnamed sources a couple times in stories, primarily because they said I can't give you information about it.
You know something? What I would like to ask you is, do you believe that the news media is controlled by oligarchy of rich and powerful men that are working to implement a new world order system? And what is a new world order system anyway?
Well, well, it's very clear that the major media, or dominant media as I call it, are owned by major corporations, right? So one can see that in the ownership structure of the major news outlets that people consume on a daily basis, especially on YouTube, right? Doesn't matter whether it's CNN, doesn't matter whether it is Fox News or MSNBC, right? MSNBC is NBC, which is owned by Comcast, you know, and then you have even ABC and CBS, I think, have their own kind of, certainly they, and of course, NBC, the network NBC, of course, they have their news services. They're corporate owned, right?
Can't forget Clear Channel. Clear Channel, I don't know about in your region, but Clear Channel owns a lot of radio stations in the United States.
Well, that's radio. Yeah, so, I mean, I think you have Clear Channel, you have Cox, you have some other players in the radio market. I've been out of radio for over 25 years, so I mean, I'm familiar with some of the players, but not a lot. Unfortunately, not a lot of what's going on.
You know what? There's somebody that is looking, and they do not understand what a new world order system is and what the Bilderbergs are and the Trilateral Commission. If you could give them some type of information about what is the Bilderbergers, Trilateral Commission, and Bohemian Grove. But we can start one at a time. What is Bohemian Grove? From what I know, this president is selected by a group of people. But what is Bohemian Grove? What is that? What is it all about? Because you know what, you see all type of spooky things about it. and you see all type of cult movies. What is Bohemian Grove? Where is it?
Well, before I talk about Bohemian Grove, since the topic is secret societies, what I wanted to note was that when we talk about secret societies, and when you have a discussion about secret societies, one of the things I like to do is define what a secret society is, at least offer my definition of a secret society. And I usually have three categories.
Mm-hmm.
The first category is that a secret society has a secret membership that is selective, right?
Yes.
They only, and they can be limited. You could have, a few dozen members. You could have a few hundred members, but these are selected and they are a secret. It's a secret membership, so it's not made public, right? Mm-hmm. And so very selective and very, very secret in terms of its membership. The second point of the definition are rituals and traditions, meaning they have some kind of ritual which they take part in or feature as a part of their organization, or they have some traditions that they do as part of their institution.
Yes.
So that's important. The second point, rituals and tradition.
Okay.
The third and the last point is it's private discussions, and I would say decisions, but decisions aren't really not always made. Sometimes they are, but mostly they're not. So you have private discussions. So this society serves as a forum for people to get together and talk and discuss things in a very private atmosphere.
Yes.
And a private atmosphere, not just physically and spatially, but also in terms of the membership. People are not allowed to talk about the things they discuss.
Yes.
On the record, anywhere with media or any other kind of public forum. Right. So let me just go over my definition again. One, for secret societies. The first, of course, is secret memberships and selectivity, hyperselectivity. The second, rituals and traditions. Third, private discussions and or decisions that are made, but the last decision is not usually the case. So those are the three criteria. Now, what I'm going to discuss tonight are at least a couple of secret societies.
Okay.
Within the hour that we have. So the first, as you mentioned, is Bohemian Grove. The second is going to be the Bilderberg group. And I'm going to sneak in a third, which is the Machine.
Okay.
So let's start out with Bohemian Grove, as you had mentioned.
Okay.
Bohemian Grove is actually the retreat located in Northern California and in a town called Monte Rio.
Okay.
So that's the retreat of an organization called the Bohemian Club. Now, the Bohemian Club has its club in San Francisco proper, in the city itself.
Wow.
And the club was founded in about 1872 or so.
Okay.
So late 19th century. And it was founded by journalists, and it was kind of like an artist's enclave, right? The slogan of the club is from William Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Weaving spiders come not here. So,
wow.
So what happens is with the Bohemian Club, and members of the Bohemian Club have to pay $25,000, I think, a year to become members, or as a membership due.
$25,000 a year.
$25,000 a year. Yeah. And it's like I think it's like over 2,000 members, and there's a waiting list, thousands more that want to be on. That's on a waiting list for the Bohemian Club. Now, the Bohemian Club, of course, owns Bohemian Grove, as I mentioned, which is located in Northern California.
Yes.
And that's the retreat that everybody talks about. Everybody talks about the retreat, not so much the club in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a retreat. And what happens is in the summertime, sometime I think in around, I think it's July or August or somewhere around that time, they get together up in Monte Rio, California.
Okay.
In about 2,700 acres of this redwood forest.
Yes.
So you have these rather striking and I think somewhat beautiful redwood trees in this redwood forest.
Yes.
With the tops of the trees basically being able to, I think, kind of obscure what goes on below, which is not only convenient, but I think, deliberate on the part of the Bohemian Club and the owners of Bohemian Grove. So
yeah.
they get together in the summer and they have this 2-week retreat. And at this retreat is where you see a lot of the movers and shakers, especially in politics primarily. And they're largely Republican. I get some Democrats get invited from time to time, but it's largely Republican.
But you know what? As you say that, when you talk about politicians, that now correct me if I'm wrong. I was told, and what I read is that the president is selected before he's elected, and usually the people that are the candidates that are left after the primary is over, they usually meet in Bohemian Grove, and they make decisions. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, there's always been that, I think, speculation about, some presidents. Again, it's largely Republicans that go out to Bohemian Grove. Not entirely, but it's largely Republicans.
Okay.
I remember reading a biography of, I guess, the relationship between Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. And I think reportedly, if I recall that book correctly, I think Eisenhower and Nixon had met at Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
I think one of their first meetings was at Bohemian Grove. This is before they campaigned for the presidency.
Okay. I didn't mean to throw you, I didn't mean to throw you out because it was just a question.
And so you will see people like Richard Nixon, Reagan, high flying, idea. I mean, I think that's part of the speculation attached to places like Bohemian Grove. So people think that's where the presidency gets decided. Belief system that people have in regards to Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
And I guess there'll always be those kind of rumors. There'll always be that kind of speculation. We do know that, like I said, movers and shakers from the political world, major names have been there, have gone there, have been a part of the retreats, taken part of the retreats.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think, I remember listening to the Watergate tapes on YouTube, of all places. Mm-hmm. And I remember that Nixon said something that was interesting. He said that Bohemian Grove, I'll be politically correct because this is YouTube, I'll just use this term, was the fairiest place he had ever been, which is interesting. That gets into other speculation about Bohemian Grove, right? Now, at Bohemian Grove itself, what happens during this retreat, which I think is usually about 2 weeks in the summer, is what they have are a variety of events. Right? Now, I should say that before I go into any further detail, that one of the defining characteristics about Bohemian Grove is that it is an all-male establishment. It's an all-male club, and the retreat is all-male. So there are no women allowed, not only with the Bohemian Club, I think, but certainly with Bohemian Grove, it is no women allowed at all.
Wow. Wow.
So They're not allowed. No women are allowed.
Would you say that? Would you say the people that are included in that exclusive membership,
So that's one of the defining
are
characteristics.
they looking out for the betterment
Is an
of
all male
society, or just a
club,
selective few, and why?
an all male troop.
Mhm. Let me ask it again. Would you say which is Bohemian Grove is exclusive club? Would you say that they're looking out for the betterment of society, or just a few, and why?
Well, I think that's something like
Mhm. I'm listening. You know what? Your sound, and your picture is still there, but the sound. And like I said, I am aware that these broadcasts they being monitored. But go ahead. Hmm.
well, I assume you can hear me a lot better now, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So let me just say that when you have a gathering of some of the most powerful people in the country in a place like Northern California, in those redwood forests, in those couple thousand acres
Hmm.
of that forest,
Hmm.
then what you have is a natural inclination to believe that skullduggery and undue methods are happening,
Yes.
are being concocted in an event like that because of the secrecy. Secrecy, not only according to my definition, it's definitely secret in regards to membership, though some names have been leaked over the years, but also secret in terms of their activities, though some of those activities are also leaked over the years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you look at Bohemian Grove, I think the troubling part for some people is the fact that one of the things that goes on at Bohemian Grove, they have, for example, plays I think they put on there. They have other forms of entertainment. You know, it gets kind of wild from what I understand. I know stories that I've heard about it.
Hmm.
Guys in drag, because there are no women allowed. So if you put on a play and there are women in it, guys have to be in drag to play the
Yes.
women. So,
Hmm.
so I've certainly heard those, you know, and other kinds of stories about drag.
I
I've
you know
certainly
what?
heard stories about that.
Hmm. Hmm. But you know something? I would like for you to address this issue. This may be an allegation that they worship a owl and they make sacrifices. Because you made the statement
Well,
that within these secret societies, there are rituals that take place. So if there's any
right.
truth or reality to that, please give me some clarification.